Hi, sorry about that. Had a little bit of a technical problem being in a strange room and all that. Um, hey, so I'll keep this reasonably brief. I've been thinking about where to go with the Max for Live stuff, and I happened to be in a studio with some third years yesterday, and they were poring over a Pro Tools session, and they were looking at trying to, I think, encode into mid side, and then do some processing, and then decode again. And so I thought I'd explore a little bit of audio processing in Max for Live. And so as a way into that, what I've got somewhere, where did I put that stuff, is as a bit of a recording that's been made in mid side. Which I'm going to put into my live project here. Yeah, cool. Okay, we should be able to hear that. I do not want to be. It's a horrible piece of music, but get the idea. So, okay, shush. Now that was recorded in mid side. That means, as I'm sure you guys know, that you use two microphones to capture the stereo image. One of them is a forward-facing, usually cardioid pattern microphone, or sometimes an omni pattern microphone that captures everything that's mono. And the other mic is a figure of eight mic, which captures the left and the right. And a figure of eight mic doesn't pick up along the edge of its kind of capsule. It only picks up in front and behind. So you put your figure of eight mic sideways, so it picks up some stuff on one side and some stuff on the other side. And as it happens, where the pattern of the cardioid one and the pattern of the figure of eight one intersect, you get a nice stereo image. Apart from, you have to understand how to encode that back into, or decode that, I suppose, back into stereo. I hope you don't get upset by me taking my mask off for a little bit, because there's no one in this room, and I'm struggling to be able to work this. There we go. My beautiful face. Okay. So what was I doing? Yes. So that's mid and side. The way it works is it's really actually quite simple to go from mid side to stereo and from stereo to mid side, and it's something that we've done. Well, I've done this at various points. The long and short of it is that mid, which is everything that's mono, is left plus right, okay? And side, which is everything that's stereo, is left minus right. And the plus and minus in this context mean adding or subtracting amplitudes. Think about this. The way a figure of eight microphone works is one side's out of phase with the other side. So if you add the left and the right together, what you'll get is just the stereo stuff, because anything that's equal on both sides will disappear. All right. So what I'm going to do is use a Max Audio effect to go from mid-side, which is how this has been recorded, to stereo, and we'll hear how that works. And then I'll think about how we can go from normal stereo to mid-side, then do some stuff, and then go back to normal stereo. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I did promise I'd keep the Teams chat open for you both. So if you have any questions, you can ask it there. This is, in terms of doing stuff in Max, this is really quite straightforward. So currently, on one side I've got the mid, on the other side I've got the side. So to go from mid side to stereo, what we do is we add together the mid and the side, and that's left. And then we subtract the mid from the side, and that's the right. And then so we take the input from the track, and we go add them up, subtract them, and then that becomes left and that becomes right. That's it. Now, let's undo all that for a second and go back to this, and let's have a quick listen again to this piece of audio.
I do not want to be callous with time, because I wasted so much of my life. I've got to be able.
If you've got headphones on, or you've got stereo set up in front of you, you should be able to hear the vocal on the left and a load of other stuff on the right. And when I put it back into normal stereo, what we hear is the vocal in the middle and everything else around the sides. So let's do it. Mid plus side there, mid minus side there, hook it back up to the output. Let's turn it down a wee bit.
I do not want to be callous with time, because I wasted so much of my life. I've got to be able to say.
Now the vocal's in the middle and the guitars and stuff around the edges, as you might expect. So if you've got some stuff that you've recorded in mid and side, or you want to go and do some recording in mid and side, the catch is, I suppose, you'd have to use Ableton Live for this. Not sure how that would work in a studio, but anyway, you can use this really simple decoding setup here to go from a mid-side recording to something in stereo without any more faffing around. Now, we notice that I had to turn the volume down. The reason I had to turn the volume down,
I do not want to be callous with time.
it's actually quite a quiet recording. The reason I had to turn the volume down is because when you do this, add two signals together like that, or in fact subtract them, but if these were out of phase with each other, that would be the equivalent of adding. When you add two signals together, in digital audio like this, or in terms of summing things on a mixing desk, you increase the overall amplitude, and the amount you increase the overall amplitude by is 3 dB. So what we have to do, because we need to compensate for this increase in volume because we're adding two signals together, is that we need to attenuate both signals at the input by 3 dB. So we use a multiplier to do that. Let's just fix this cabling. So we need to multiply both of these signals by something that equates to minus 3 dB. And the way we do that is we use this object called A to dB, which converts a number in decibels to a number in no, not D, it's dB, dB to A, dB to A. It will output a number that we can use to scale the signal using a multiply from a value in decibels. So if I type -3 in here, that is the door going. If I type -3 in there, what it will do is output a number that I can use to scale the signal by -3 dB. Give me a sec. Hello. I'm actually doing the YouTube live streaming thing right now. So yeah, so go and log into Teams somewhere and tune in, and it's probably going to be another half an hour or so, and then I'll come back to you guys about your Max work. So it's a bit weird you being in the room, but it's all good. I'll put my mask back on as well. In reality, I think there's maybe another 2 people on the other end of the stream anyway. So popular my Max classes are. Where was I? Yes. So that will attenuate the signal at input by 3 dB. This is great if you're into sort of the sort of thing that Ken likes, stuff around decibels and that kind of stuff. There's these little utility objects, A to dB, dB to A, similarly F to M, M to F, are really useful for going from different ways of measuring things to other ones. So we've got a 3 dB gain reduction. We sum the mid and side together here. We subtract the mid from the side here, and that gives us the correct level downstream. So you can hear this, I bypass the plugin. Because I wasted so much of my life, I've got to be the amplitude of both is the same. All right, great. So that's lovely if you've got a mid-side recording, but the other thing we could do here is we can go from a normal stereo signal to mid-side and then back again, and it's just the same process. So what we can actually do is kind of keep this little bit here inside its own little patcher. So we can call it a kind of converter, because the way you go from mid-side to left, right, and back again is simply with this sum and difference approach. So what I'm going to do is select all of this stuff here. I'm going to go Object. Oh, I always get this wrong. You go Edit, and then Encapsulate. So it puts everything inside a little box, and then we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it some. And then to get into that, we lock the patcher and then double click on it. And to make sure that this thing gets triggered when the patcher loads, I'm going to use my favorite object, load bang, so that when the patcher loads, that message gets triggered and these amplifiers are at the right level. Okay. I should probably save this, shouldn't I? Save as. Stick it on my desktop for now. S and D. I'm not going to know what that is later. Okay. Now let's say we want to go from stereo to mid-side, and then from mid-side back to stereo. We simply put two of these in the way like that, and then all of a sudden we've got a conversion process. In fact, what this should do to that audio is put it back the way it was. Yeah, it's not doing anything because neither of these load bangs would have fired yet, will they? I've got to be able to say my goodbye. Yeah, now it's back the way it was. These are great. You can even, if you wanted to, we can open this patcher here, this encapsulation, and we can save it. So what I'm going to do is save the main patch. Let's save this in a bit more of a sensible place. Save this in my usual development folder in its own folder called some mid-side stereo. Okay. Then what I can do is save this encapsulated version. So save as in the same place. And then watch this. If I type in some diff, I get the same device. This is called an abstraction. And it's a saved version of that encapsulation. And what's great about this is that if you wanted to make a change, say you had loads of these in Apache, if you wanted to make a change to all of them at the same time, because it's saved as an abstraction, you can simply change one of them. Let's add a comment in here. We save the subpatcher, and then all of a sudden, all the others have the same change in them. So it's like a kind of an alias almost. So I can actually now use those. Now, I can do stuff in the middle now. So let's put a different sound in. Let's just put a drum loop in for now. Like that one. Okay. So now we can say we've got left and right. That's the sum, so that's the mid. Let's label it. And that's the side. So let's say we wanted to do something to just the side. But what? Well, how about we do some filtering? I'm going to use two fantastic objects for filtering. Those are filter graph, which gives you a graphical, interactable object for filtering, and Cascade. And Cascade takes the output from filter graph, and it allows you to filter audio signals. So let's just see what this does. If I just take away the side for now and filter the mid, it should still sound all right. Okay, so it can be sweepable EQ like that, and if we add an attribute slider here, we can change the filter type here. So we can do low pass or high pass or any of these other kinds of filtering. Let's just have a listen to the low pass. And you can see there that we've got a frequency input and a resonance input, and a gain input. So you can control these with other interface objects, but they're quite a nice sort of graphical view on processing. Here's where it gets interesting. Why don't we do one of those for the mid? And then another one for the side, and go about processing the mid and the side. I'm making the right mess here. The mid and the side with separate processes. Let's just set this filter to something reasonably flat for now. So what we should hear is the normal sound, if you like. And then if I take the cutoff down on the mid component, what we're left with is everything that's not mono. It's a terrible quality sample. And if I take the side component down, we filter out only the stereo part of the sound, leaving behind everything that's mono. All right. So a more extreme example is if I can't fix that now. Okay. If I put some reverb on the whole thing, best reverb TM is Realm, isn't it? Do is perhaps do something funny with the reverb. Like maybe what we want to do is take the bass out of the reverb. I'll take the treble out of the center chat track. We do a filter sweep only on the mono part. Past the reverb. So what we've got there is the ability to split a normal stereo sound into its mid and side components, separately process each the mid and side components, and then glue them back together into stereo so that we can treat the different parts of the signal differently. And this, we've done this here with Cascade and Filtergraph, and these are fantastic tools. You can build a complete EQ system here if you were of a mind to. So let's have a little look at how we might do that. So right now we've got one filter here, which is a bandpass filter. Let's make it a peak notch, which is the usual kind of parametric EQ thing. If we wanted two of those, what we have to do is create another attribute slider here. And this is going to be active number of filters. So let's say we have two active filters. Now I've got 1, 2. And they'll both operate because Cascade is a cascaded series of filters that can do all of these different things. It will simply output a list of filter coefficients to Cascade, giving you effectively complete control over what you're doing. So now we've got a 2-band EQ. Let's hear it in action. If we wanted to change what each individual filter band is, it's a little more complicated. We need to send a message to the filter graph, which I'm just looking up, which is all these messages this thing has. Set filter. So if we said set filter 0, and then we said set filter 1, they're numbered from 0. That's why we have to do it that way. And we can select those two different filters. So set filter 0, let's make that high pass. Set filter 1, let's make that low pass. Now we've got low pass and high pass. No, it didn't work, did it? Set filter 0, low pass, set filter 1. Maybe the wrong message. That's interesting. Select filter. Select filter 0. So I could make a variable in here. Let's make 1 low pass, 0 high pass. Still not working, is it? I tried it yesterday and it worked. Obviously, I decided to break that part of it. Oh well. Select filter. See what? All right. Select filter 0. Select filter 1. 0, 1. 0, low pass. 1, high pass. Sort of not working. Well, there is a way of doing that. And you can have multiple number of filters. I can't remember what the maximum is, but it's quite a large number. So you can make your own EQs. And while I'm talking about that, we probably should look at signal analysis. Sorry, this is getting away from me slightly. Signal analysis. So if you wanted to have a kind of display of what that signal is, there's a couple of ways of doing it. We can use spectroscope. So let's analyze the output. Whoops. Of this cascade here. Oh yeah, that's why. So you can kind of do a real-time spectrum display, and we can set this to be perhaps logarithmic instead of linear, so it's a bit more realistic. And if you wanted to, on the GUI, we could make the background of this transparent. And send this one to the back, and then line it up. So you know how the way Ableton and Logic's EQs are. So you can actually kind of you can actually see the spectrum in real time in the background, and you can make them look like however you want them to look. There is one more object to look at in that respect, which is an object called plot. Now with this one, what we have to do is go into the help file and cut out this part here on spectral display, and what we actually need is that patch, and that object. So we copy that out, and then we paste it into our patcher here, and then what we'll get is a really lovely looking spectral display. I'm not having much luck today, am I? So it's a much nicer looking display, and again you can resize it. We could put it, instead of the spectroscope, we could put it here behind the EQ selector if we make the curve a little bit more aggressively coloured. Send that to the back. Resize this to match. Making some horrid noises. Okay, let's recap. So the first thing we did was we made a mid-side encoder decoder using a simple sum and difference matrix here, and we made sure that the incoming audio is reduced by 3 dB using the dB2A object to scale it via multiply. Then we saved that as its own separate patcher so that we can call it in however we like into the main patcher simply by typing its name in, and that's called an abstraction. Then we have another one of those down there. So this one converts from mid-side, no, it converts from stereo to mid-side. This one converts from mid-side back to stereo. Then what we did was we used Cascade and Filter Graph to create, I've made a mess of this one, to create a couple of EQ or filtering style processors so that we could modify either the mid or the side. And don't forget, you could use this just in straightforward stereo as well. But it is quite interesting to break the sound up like that. It's the sort of process that you tend to find used in mastering, for example, but also, you know, kind of useful for doing general mixing work. And these two things get summed together here. It's probably worth saying that I don't know if I could offer any guarantees that these will stay phase aligned. They should do. Max is pretty good, but it's probably wise to, if you're going to process the mid, to process the side with the same thing, even if it's bypassed, just to make sure that the audio stays phase aligned. And that's it. Okay, I promised a reasonably short one today, and there it is. So that is mid side in Max for Live. Do remember that you can come and join me in my amazing classroom if you like. I'm here on Thursdays between 2 and 4. You just have to book in using the form. So come in if you like. I'm gonna leave it there, and hope this was useful, and see you for more Max stuff soon. All right, ta-ta for now.